Oh shit, I'm like already laughing before the fucking video even starts. So this is gonna be like another video of It's Oddly Terrifying with Maiden because I don't know what's gonna happen moving forward, how fucking retarded this whole thing is. I mean, it got such a buzz. Remember when I said Quebec tends to screw up because it's so screwed up? Well, this is a great example of such a thing. But where it gets offensive is because it has to do with, like, death certificates. I mean, it's a fucking piss off when you can't figure out if somebody died of Rona or with Rona. You have no fucking clue, but this this is just kind of hysterical. Okay. So, Quebec issued an English death certificate, then rejected it. They can't do butt fuck nothing without screwing shit up. Oh, the title's perfect. Oh, Jesus, tap dancing Christ, this is perfect. Being told that the Quebec issued death certificate is not acceptable in Quebec seems unnecessary at best. At best. How would it be at worst? And a sad misapplication of Bill 96, a man trying to settle an estate wrote to the minister of the French language. Oh, Jesus, fuck. Okay. So a Montreal family trying to settle an outstanding matter from their late father's estate has run up against a new and ridiculous consequence of Bill 96. So a Quebec government department has rejected the English copy of their father's death certificate, an official document issued by none other than the Quebec government itself. I no comment needed on this one, but the family has been told to produce a certified French translation of the document at an added cost for it to be considered valid. I'm just trying to imagine the amount of red tape that people have to go through just to prepare for one's death, right? Depending on what it is. You know, if you want to be in the ground, if you want to be on the wall, if you want to be cremated, composted, donate your body to science, aquamated. So you have to do all this organized shit to prepare for the big day, right? Costing you X amount of money. And then you run into a bit of a problem because things could get messy. Even, I thought the whole point of setting up a will and shit was supposed to help ease a transition. But the costs and the headache and all that shit, because that's the point. Like, there's a notary involved. There's, like, that's where the, hey, government, can you help us out? Even though, like, you settle these things in place. And now you come to this situation where the death certificate is no longer valid because Quebec has put it into law that any official documentation has to be in French only, because that's how you want to save the French culture, is officializing everything, you know, be it in French only, because that's how this shit works. You know, Pat and Marois should have taken notes that this is how shit is done, guys. You know? Like, I just find this so fucking funny. That's how you're going to save the French culture, just by slapping that shit, like the French label on anything. It's the same thing like how Biden won. You know, dead people are able to vote. That's how inclusive America has gone. And now here you have a situation where Quebec printed out an English documentation, then rejected it. And because of their screw-up, the family has to produce a French translation at their added expense. I mean, will this shit ever fucking end? You know, like, if this was me, I'd probably say, yeah, put me in the fucking coffin. I want the shit to be done too. Here, look, can we trade places, pa? I mean, it's not valid. Because you have English text. I mean, it was smaller than the French. I mean, I did you a favor, guys. But still. I mean, the amount of frustration and piss off and just a bit of hilarity of the situation. I don't know. This is silliness. They know exactly what the document is? Do they? Or they're just playing dumb, said the late man's son, a physician who wanted to remain anonymous, so he bid to expose the absurdity of this wrinkle in Quebec's language laws that doesn't reflect on his worth in the health system. Does it now? I mean, people are dying because there's, like, you know, long waits and shit. You know, you're funding a fucking system where you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna die any day now. Well, you could always go, you know, off yourself. That's always another option. And it doesn't, like, nah. Like, I mean, just, that's gonna kill you. The healthcare is gonna kill you. Language laws are also gonna kill you because I don't speak French. You know, there's a language barrier. You know, like, I'm dying of a fucking heart attack. And I don't speak French. I guess I'll die knowing that I should have done better. A birth certificate and a death certificate are basic as it comes. Well, I mean, being a basic bitch, yeah, you think, right? But there's always an issue. All it does is give the name and the identity of the person and the place and the date that it happened. The doctor's father died in 2009. There was no problem using the English death certificate when dealing with other aspects of the estate. But the father co-owned property in the Laurentians with his sisters, the last of whom passed away only recently. The descendants are now looking to sell the land, but to do so, they will need to rescind a clause that was in the physician's grandmother's will, giving it to his father the right to use her cottage. It should be straightforward. You know, that's the whole point. You're dealing with Quebec. It's not always that straightforward. Jesus fucking tap dancing Christ. I sincerely hope that I won't be in this fucking province when I'm dead. Okay? Like, I'm already thinking about my death wish, and I don't think it's gonna be possible. You know, like, have my skull be separated from the rest of my body. Like, my body is like in an urn, and my skull will be beautifully decorated in black with decor, and like you know, little space where you could put the urn in. And that's how I want to be immortalized. I don't think that's going to be possible because, I mean, it is Quebec after all. You can't get... If you're having an issue with just having a fucking death certificate with the language, I don't think my death wish will even come true. But after the notary submitted the paperwork, Quebec's Ministry of Natural Resources, which is involved in the transaction, sent a refusal memo stipulating that the death certificate must be translated. Well, where the fuck do you go for such a thing? Even the notary was surprised! Said the doctor. Given it's not a document from another province or country, or in a foreign language. I've heard people say over the years, it's nobody in particular, just the sentiments. I've literally heard some French people say in English, English is a foreign language. That has got to be the most ironic thing I've heard people say. Talking about a language and the language they find foreign. That's hilarious. The Quebec government is refusing to recognize an official record it produced. They're so fucking illegitimate. It's hilarious. I don't think they take their shit fucking seriously at this point. The notary told the family in an email, frankly, I'm still stumped. Nevertheless, we must keep in mind that this is a new law, and its application is still evolving and subject to constantly changing bureaucratic interpretation. The physician who signs on forms for the death certificates himself offered to get the French version of the form and re-enter the information, but the notary said this wouldn't cut it. Why? I mean, you do everything that... It's like the TOS on CommieTube, right? You do everything it says and follow the rules, you'll be fine, and you still get demonetized, shadow banned, whatever fuck. Same thing with Quebec. You still get screwed over. No, that's not going to cut it. At your expense, put it in French, and then we may or may not recognize it. So technically, he's not considered dead. Oh, fuck. He said no, they'll just reject it, and it'll come back again, and I'll just have to keep charging you the multiple tries of this. Oh, so it's a cash grab. Just like most things in Quebec, it's a fucking ripoff. You can't just rest in peace. Oh, fuck. Yeah. I don't want to be dealing with this bullshit. This is gonna be like a foreshadowing of what is to come in the future. No. I want my death wish to be running smoothly. I could physically rest in peace, but my energies and whatever will obviously live on. And I get to have fun in the afterlife and possibly haunt a few people. Who knows? But this is nothing but a fucking cash grab. So the doctor said, I was shocked that they sent it back. Something so official saying we're not accepting it because it's an English death certificate. I mean, that basically screams discrimination. Like, even if you're dead, like, fuck you, you know? That's like spitting on the person's grave, basically. 96 sweeping legislation to promote and protect the French, adopted just over a year ago, touches everything from healthcare to municipal services. The law also enshrines French is the only official language of Quebec, elevates the Charter de la Langue Française over constitutional rights. So that basically means I, who didn't vote for Lego, who didn't vote for Cuban Fabio, who also doesn't agree to the charter of the French language, you know, your fucking gospel, let alone the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I didn't agree to any of that shit, and yeah, why the fuck am I subjugated to that? Like, it's a delegitimate anyways. And defends any injustices from challenge by preemptively invoking the notwithstanding. Okay. Every time I see this is a curse waiting to happen to these people. But the practical fallout is not only now becoming clear, as parts of the law are being rolled out gradually. For instance, as of June 1st, new immigrants have to just have 6 months before all their communications with the bureaucracy must be in the French. And Quebecers seeking public services in English, even consulting a city website, must attest in good faith that they will fall into narrow categories of eligibility. So dividing me, kind of like, you know, being unvaccinated versus vaccinated, language Nazi versus non-language Nazi. Can't wait to be part of this new normal in Quebec. This is fascinating. You see, guys, this is how you protect a culture. By dividing people into categories. That's not dehumanizing whatsoever. All documents submitted to the courts in English must be accompanied by a French translation from motions to judgments. And this adds costs and administrative hurdles for Anglophones seeking to access the justice system. You might want to change that. It's called the injustice system, which is expensive as it is. Tell that to my fucking bank account. Rip my bank account. The requirement to translate the death certificate is one small example of how Bill 96 is eroding the quality of English speakers when they interact with the state. I still hold my position that Bill 101, Bill 96 need to not only be burned, well, rip it first, and then be burned and abolish the old QLF, because this is nothing but fucking infringements. I mean, your death certificate is basically like the key ticket to passing on your inheritance and what it is, how your death wish, how you want it to be, and passing on your assets to the next generation, basically your private property. And yet the issue is the dead person cannot have their shit be respected because of the language. So even after all that, even when they're dead, there's still fucking problems. Don't we love the state, guys? Don't we love it? You know? It's perfect. I mean, a lot of you Canadians could learn something from us here in Quebec. You could learn something, you know? Unlike Cuban Fabio and Doug Ford and any other loser premier is not doing a good job when it comes to protecting Canadian culture. Okay, at least the French are fucking doing it. This is a good example, man. Anyways, and there will likely be many more. You don't say. Although it would cost about $100 to get a certified copy of the death certificate, it's the principle of the matter. Well, I mean, you're talking to language Nazis. These people don't have principles. Or if they do, it's, French only or else. A new irritant at a time when Anglophones are being treated like second-class citizens. Oh, I agree with that. The doctor wrote to the minister of the French language, this has to also be fucking abolished. This is a nothing burger job. Jean-François Rouberge, last month expressing dismay, but has not received a response. Well, of course he's not going to receive a fucking response. He's too busy. He's too busy being the fucking authority of the French language. That's more important than fucking talking about death certificates. He doesn't have time for the plebs. Shut the fuck up and get back to your job. Plebs need not be replied to. Being told that the Quebec-issued death certificate is not acceptable in Quebec seems unnecessary at best and sad misapplication of the new law. Whose fault is that? And whose problem it becomes later on down the line. Is this really how the government intends that the new Law 96 should be administered? He lamented in his letter. Again, these are language Nazis. These are the same fucking geniuses that were very arbitrary with the fucking curfews. Yeah, Rona's more lethal after 10. Not 8. After 10. Because we said so. And you also remember at the beginning of the pandemic, guys? Old people were dropping off like flies. We had no PPEs, and on one agenda, on the one concern for the PPEs, what's his face? Yves-François Blanchet, the leader of the bloc, was more concerned about PPEs being in French. Because, we don't understand the English. I mean, for a fucking dude who doesn't expressly say it, but it's kind of like implied that they're like oppressed, you're like the so-called leader of a federalist separatist party of Canada. I mean, you're making easy money by just bitching and doing nothing and being in the shadow of Lego. Anglophones have to fucking deal with. Not even in death we could actually rest in peace. After going public, the doctor next plans to contact his M&A, but he is not hopeful. Well, I mean, after all that shit, I wouldn't feel hopeful either. Because this province is a fucking joke. Just like its own existence. The government has said over and over that for the people who are historic Anglophones, nothing will change and we can communicate with the state in English. This is obviously not the case. Well, I feel like you guys were putting a little too much faith in the new gods of the new town. But I mean, it is, like, on a serious note, really pathetic and really and kind of funny at the same time. I mean, this definitely garnered a shit ton of attention. But again, this is Quebec. They like to screw up a screw up. And it's definitely a terrifying place to live in Canada. Peace out.